Welcome to Brent's Prime Food Adventures. I'm in southeast Detroit. I'm with my nephew, Austin Kettler. Special guest Austin Kettler is going to help today. The reason I'm back in Detroit, everyone may know, or many of you may know that I'm from the Detroit area. And we have a prime rib chow down in my family. There's maybe 30 of us, not that 30 people will be there. Sometimes it's 20. And we always do it on December 28th. That's actually my father's birthday. So when we talk about the store I used to own, Raised Prime Foods, it was once Raised Prime Beef, then Raised Prime Meats, then Raised Prime Foods. I owned it the last 10 years. My father set it up before I was born. And this is his birthday, 12/28. Actually, tomorrow is. We're doing some prep today. So our episode is going to be prime rib. And I'm going to say Merry Christmas. Okay, so you may wonder why prime rib and why Austin. So I'm going to explain. Since he was a child, Austin has been my sous chef. He's always been very interested in cooking. There was nights when he and his sisters would sleep over. He would help me cook breakfast in the morning. There is times when we've had whole pigs, a couple different times in the family. My store used to serve whole pigs. Austin would help me carve them. When I used to come over, I moved away, I'm in Colorado again, but I used to come over and cook for the Kettler family, and Austin would always help, without exception. He would come in, a lot of times the homemade Caesar salad that I would do, it doesn't matter what it is, work the grill. Austin has always been my sous chef. So today there's a couple prime rib items that we're going to do as part of our prep, and Austin is going to help me, just like he always has, with the prime rib prep.
Yeah, I've been helping Brent since before I could remember. It's always been here, do this, here, do that, and of course I'm always willing to learn because you never know when you'll need to make your own meals for yourselves.
In my family, it pays to be a good cook. There are many, 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 many good cooks. We're foodies. Again, my father, his grandfather had the gourmet meat market. And we've just been around food. There's really no other way to say it. We've been around food all our lives.
Just a big food family. Food brings us all together for sure.
And it's on every side. It's not just the Martiniacs. Austin's fortunate enough to have food everywhere, no matter where he turns to in his family.
Yes, yes.
A couple fun things too that are really not food related that Austin and I have done in the past was. One time we went to, was it WWE?
It was the WWE. It was one of John Cena's last matches before he retired.
No, because John Cena just retired.
Well, before he came back.
Before he first retired.
Before he first retired.
Another one was, I remember one night when Austin had a sleepover and we watched Bruce Lee movies together. Yep. Fist of Fury was it in particular.
Yep.
And just recently, within the last year, since I moved to Colorado, we skied Aspen together last year. He came out with his cousin. Can we call him his cousin, Tyler?
Yeah.
So he has a great aunt Liz that lives in Aspen, and then he has a great uncle Brent that lives in Boulder. And so when he goes out and skis with his cousin Tyler, I join everybody, and we have a big hoo-ha ski down. It's just like that. I can't explain that any better.
That's great. That's so much fun. All four of us will be skiing, and it's just a big time of our lives.
And Austin. Also, just to explain the family connection, he is my niece Corey's son, and I'm at Corey's house when I come to Michigan. I stay with my niece Corey, and her house was featured in the ground beef and pub burgers episode. So if you had a chance to watch that, this is where we are again. And what we're going to do today, tomorrow is the cook day. Today we are going to prepare the garlic herb butter rub that's going to be used tomorrow. We're also going to salt one of the prime ribs today. And then tomorrow we're going to actually do a Dijon herb. I'm going to do that. But Austin's going to help me salt one of the prime ribs. And he's also going to help me make the garlic herb butter.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And we're doing that today. We have 5 prime ribs for my family. My brother Ray was gracious enough to track them all down. In the old days, Austin, you might not know this, but the reason that we had prime rib, one of the reasons on 12/28 every year, was we would sell at the store 4,000 pounds, 2 tons of prime rib Christmas week. It was always the busiest week of the year. We would have, absolutely, it was the sales. And everyone would come from the southeast Detroit, we call it the downriver area, and buy their prime rib from Ray's. And there would always be some left over from orders that weren't picked up. And we had a seasoning called the Magic Dust. And by the way, if you want to buy that seasoning, it's a salt, pepper, garlic, and herb. I'm going to have a link in the description below to it. I recommend it. I still use it every day when I make steaks and when I make roasts.
I was about to say, I use it every time I make a steak on the grill. You just sprinkle some of it on and just rub it in and you're good to go.
I called it the Magic Dust. And what would happen is we would have 4 or 5 prime rib orders that weren't picked up, that were seasoned. So if it wasn't picked up, we could turn it into Delmonico's, or we could turn it into, rib steaks, or we could sell it. But once it's seasoned, we're kind of stuck with it. So we'd always get these orders, 3, 4, 5, and that would be the prime rib. That's why we always had prime rib on 12/28, was we were recycling the prime rib orders that were seasoned that did to get used.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so in addition to all the other things going on 12/28, my father's birthday, plus our family was always so busy. One is we're large, and so people had all kinds of things to do on Christmas Eve and Christmas. So when we're trying to get everybody together, it was always easier to do it after Christmas. But the other part was, we were busy. Like, we were busy on Christmas week, my family was. Especially when I owned a store, I was losing my mind half the time. And so then the 24th and the 25th, I would do Christmas with my family, but we wouldn't really do the big shindig, hoo-ha, until the 28th. Part of it was they had to give our family, my brother Ray, my father, everybody who worked there, time to recover so that we could have a Christmas with a moment of peace and not be just totally wired from the holiday before. We have 4 prime ribs total.
4 prime ribs.
3 5-pounders that I have here in my home, Corey's home, and 1 6-pounder that is at my nephew Jason's, who is Ray's son. Talk about a good, he grew up, Ray owned the store for 25 years. So Jason's going to smoke one. And then there's 2 of them that we're going to just put the garlic herb butter on, and then I'm going to bring over, and he's going to do the sear. And so what that means is he puts it on at 500 degrees, and then he cooks it for a period of time. Then he just turns the oven off, and he leaves them in there until they're a medium rare. And then he pulls them, and he lets them rest. The recipes for all these are going to be below in the description. So the recipe for the garlic herb butter is going to be below. The recipe, the cooking instructions for how to do a sear, how to smoke a prime rib. What we used to tell our customers, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, you just cook prime rib 20 minutes a pound at 350. That was the old-fashioned way. It's the easiest thing in the world. But now we're doing searing, reverse searing, smoking. And the way I'm going to prepare one, I get one that I'm going to prepare. So Jason's going to smoke the 6-pounder. He's going to get 2 of the 5-pounders. I'm going to rub with the garlic herb butter tomorrow. I'm going to bring over to him for him to do his searing. And then one I'm keeping for myself. This is a little bit of controversy in my family because everyone says Jason does the prime rib so well. Brent, why would you do one different? But I am doing one different. And that one I'm going to... They've all been dry aging. We'll discuss that in a little bit. But that one I'm going to rub with salt today all over. Tomorrow, before I prepare it, I'm going to then rub it with Dijon. And then I will also do the garlic, no butter, but I'll do the garlic and the herbs. And that one I'm going to do a reverse sear. I've never done this before, but to my understanding, is that it's a better flavor. Aha! We're going to find out. There might be some prime rib throwing down tomorrow. And that means we're going to cook it at 225, low and slow, until it hits a certain temperature. I think it's going to be 115 degrees. Again, the cooking instructions for all these will be below. And then what I will also do then is I turn it up, I take it out, I let it rest for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, and I put it back in the oven, and then I do the sear. at the end, which is why it's called a reverse sear. I'll turn it on for 500 for 5 or 10 minutes. So we're going to have prime rib cooked 3 different ways.
Be a good holiday.
I think we're good. So what we're going to do now, Austin, is let's go ahead and salt the prime rib that I'm going to prepare tomorrow.
All right.
And let's go ahead and make the garlic herb butter that we're going to put on the 2 that Jason is going to cook tomorrow.
All right.
Cheers. So now we're going to talk about prime rib. Prime rib is 7 bones. If you buy a whole prime rib, it will always be 7 bones. And it's the part that connects, it's the middle meat. Again, I always talk about the middle meat. That's the tenderness. But it's the part that connects the shoulder or the chuck to the loin. Or if you want to call them the porterhouse steaks there. And that is this, so it's this part of the cattle. And if you cut it into steaks, the prime rib can be different things. One is a rib steak. So if a bone-in prime rib is 20 inches long and you're going to cut a 1-inch rib steak, you're going to get 20 steaks out of it. Some people would do that at Ray's Prime Foods. Some customers preferred that or liked that. There's also something called a cowboy steak. And before we talk about the cowboy steak, we're going to talk about the tomahawk. There's also something called a tomahawk. What the tomahawk is it's the full prime rib, including all the bones. So the bones are long, and because it's cut in between each bone. So it's not like a rib steak. The rib steaks have, if you cut them 1 inch thick on the saw, you're cutting completely different. The tomahawks and also something called a cowboy steak are cut 1 bone each. So you will always only get 7 tomahawk steaks, and you'll also only get 7 cowboy steaks. And the tomahawk steak has that whole bone which is attached. Something called the cowboy steak has only a part of the bone. And then the rib steak has the bone, but it's cut right to the end there. So if you're talking about a bone-in prime rib, you're talking about either a rib steak, which is about 1 inch thick, maybe 1.25 inches, and you get maybe 16 to 20 out of a whole one. Or you're talking about a tomahawk steak, which is 1 bone per steak. You cut right through those bones with a knife. It's just cartilage, so you can go right through it. You don't even need a saw to make the tomahawk steaks. And then kind of the splitting the difference is the cowboy steak. Pictures of all of those are included. Sometimes there's a boneless prime rib, and that could be called the boneless ribeye. In Michigan, we call that a Delmonico. And that's where the bone is removed, and all we're doing is then we're just cutting the boneless prime rib into steaks. And those, again, inch, you cut them any thickness you want. We used to have customers do special requests. Some people would want them 2 inches. Some people would want them a 1/2 inch or even less. Sometimes they take that boneless prime rib and it would be shaved. We would freeze it slightly and cut it on a slicer. And people would use that for different products. There's some Asian cooking that has that, as well as it makes a great French dip. But in general, if you're going to do a boneless ribeye, what you're going to do is you're going to cut them about 1 inch thick. So again, just like you would with the bone-in prime rib, you're going to get maybe 16 to 20 steaks. So now that we know the steaks that make up the prime rib, let's talk about the prime rib itself. Martiniacs always prefer the bone. We always say it brings the flavor. But the boneless is easier to work with. So if I would tell people when they would say, I'm going to cook prime rib and I haven't done it before, I would typically steer them towards a boneless prime rib, just a little easier to work with. A whole bone-in prime rib, typically a whole bone-in prime rib, everybody, is about 14 to 20 pounds, all 7 bones. And then if you're going to do a whole boneless prime rib, it'll be a little smaller because there's no bone attached, and it'll be about 12 to 14 pounds. There's one more component. If you're doing boneless prime rib, it's the ribs at the bottom. Those are called beef back ribs. And there were beef back ribs that were shown when I talked about the beef ribs, and we made we grilled the beef short ribs. I discussed the different kinds of beef ribs. Beef back ribs was part of it. But for this specific episode, the beef back ribs are just the bones of a prime rib, which have been removed. So the top part becomes the boneless prime rib. The bottom part, or the bones, become the beef back ribs. And you would just cook those low and slow, just like you would a pork rib. Last time I cooked beef back ribs, guys, I seasoned them. I wrapped them in aluminum. I cooked them low and slow on the grill for 3 or 4 hours. I removed the aluminum. I put the grill on high. I seared them on both sides. I hit them with some sauce. Delicious, really delicious. Something else we do with the bones in my family, we really do fight for the bones. It's true amongst the brothers and sisters. I take those bones if given the opportunity. I will not be bringing them back to Boulder, so I'm going to leave the bones behind. But given the opportunity, I take those bones and a lot of times I turn them into a beef barley soup, which is fantastic. Or there's just so many things you could do with the bones. You can just eat them as is. You could use them for stock. There's a lot of things. So the bones are valuable at our house. That's another reason why we would do the bone-in prime rib. And that is because we know what to do with the bones. We appreciate the bones. As you do the prime rib, there's a chuck end, which is closer to the shoulder, and there's a loin end. My family always prefers the chuck end. Always prefers the chuck end. And the reason why is because we talked about it, that's the rib cap. Sometimes that's called decal, especially if you're a meat cutter. You know that rib cap is called decal. Arguably, that rib cap is the premium piece of beef on a cattle. So the closer you are to the shoulder or the chuck side, which is also the bigger end, the more decal or the more cap meat that you will get. My family likes cap meat so much. My son Tyler in Chicago one time got a hold of a prime rib cap, and he cooked it and he ate it. He cooked it whole, and then after he cooked it, he cut it into steaks. I'd never seen that before. That's not a product that we sold at our store. We would never remove that because that was such a big part of the prime rib, but apparently you can get it. There's other names for it, but just if you ask the meat cutter, and if that's something you were looking for, a whole rib cap, prime rib cap, that's what I would ask them for. The loin end, which is closer to here, is closer to the New York strip. So the loin end tends to be a little leaner, a little less marbled, and also it tends to be a little smaller. So the customers that understood prime rib would come to our store and they would always say, I want a 3-bone prime rib, or they would say, I want an 8-pound prime rib, bone in, and I want the chuck end. And I would always smile because, we just sold bone-in prime rib. You really had to know what you're talking about. And a lot of the customers did to ask for the chuck end. We never ran out. That's what I would do. And that's what, when I said Ray was looking through half the stores downriver to pick out our prime rib, he was looking for the end with that large cap or that chuck end, in addition to the marbling. So now we're going to talk about the ways to cook prime rib. So growing up in the 70s and 80s, we always would just tell customers, and we had a handout. Cook it at 350 for 20 minutes a pound. That's very much old school. Now you want to sear first, you want to do a reverse sear, or you want to smoke it. By the way, our family is doing all three tomorrow. We are going to sear 2 of them. Jason will do that. Those will be the ones with the garlic herb butter that Austin had made earlier. And then I'm going to do one with the reverse sear, and that's going to be the one with the Dijon mustard and the herbs, which I'm going to make tomorrow. See how that turns out. I'm going to be under the gun on that one, and that's where you cook it low and slow first, and then you sear it at the end. And smoking. I've never smoked a prime rib. I've had smoked prime rib, and it's delicious. The first time I heard about smoked prime rib, I was stunned, because I always thought of smoked meat as being cooked to 165 degrees, like chickens, or like the rabbit we did in the smoked rabbit episode where we cooked the whole rabbit, or cooked to 195 degrees. You're cooking to 195 degrees if you're pulling the meat off. And that's, again, what we did in the rabbit episode, the second one. The first one is where we smoked the rabbit and ate it whole, cooked it to 165. The second one is where we smoked it to 195 and we pulled it. And I was thinking, why would you take a beautiful piece of meat like prime rib and why would you cook it to 195? Well, that was just, I was wrong. That's just what I was thinking. And so what we could do, what you do is you cook the prime rib low and slow to 115 degrees, and then you sear it. and you still get that smoky flavor. So you're not cooking it through to 165 or 195. For whatever reason, that's where my mind went to. And so that's what I was thinking happened in a smoked prime rib. But that's not what happens. And the smoked prime rib we'll do tomorrow again will be no butter, because we do have somebody attending who has a butter sensitivity. We've talked about the bone-in prime rib. The easiest thing to do is to remove that bone and tie it back on prior to cooking. That way you still get the consistency of cooking with the bone. When you think of prime rib, guys, I read an article once about a product that is associated with certain countries, and one of them was sushi with Japan. And the product associated with the United States of America is prime rib. When you think about the United States of America, the USA, you think about prime rib when you're talking about, what is the cut, or what is the meat that is associated with us here. So, and when you're thinking about prime rib, I always think about bone-in. We're gonna cradle it. There's some other terms for it. Sometimes it's called a chef-style roast. And again, all you're doing, you're cutting the bone off, tying it back on, hopefully seasoning in between the bone and the meat. And then when you go to carve it, you just cut your string and you take that carved piece out, and that's what you do. Maybe we'll see us do that tomorrow. You just carve that boneless beef. It's so much easier than trying to carve the beef off the bone while it's hot. You could do that. People did that for many years, but you don't have to. Get your prime rib cradled. The seasoning is very important too. We had a product, it's in the description below, that we sold at the store that was Magic Dust. And it was a salt, pepper, garlic, herb mix. It was made in Michigan, or it's made in Michigan. And I've talked about Magic Dust in previous episodes. And I will say that we would get it bulk. We would get it in 40-pound packages. And we'd offer free seasoning on our prime rib. And it was the Magic Dust. And I would say that 75% were like, yeah, put that on my prime rib because it is delicious. A lot of people say I don't make a steak without it. I use it in my eggs. I just put some in my eggs this morning that I made. So it's a certain seasoning. If you're familiar with Ray's Prime Foods and you shop there and you want to get Magic Dust, go to the link below and that'll be the product. It's not called Magic Dust. That was our nickname for it. But that'll be the product that you can buy just through Amazon. It's easy peasy. We salted one. We dry aged all of them. Dry aged again. Boy, I'm using quotes a lot in this episode because the real dry aging is you're supposed to have 60 days in that humidifier, that humidity controlled environment with the salt underneath, like you see in the steakhouses. I used to love going to steakhouses and I would tell them I own a meat market, gourmet meat market, and I'm a little familiar with beef, and I would get the tours through the dry aging rooms. Sometimes I'd get the chef's table. I would pull that out for sure. I know one of the restaurants I went to once in Chicago, one of the famous steakhouses, the guy comes out with the steak tray and he starts explaining the steaks. And I said, whoa, I said, I could do that maybe better than you. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, my family owned gourmet meat markets for over 60 years, longer than I was born. My father started it before I was born. I was the last of 6 children. And so I know a little bit about beef, and it's always fun when I tell people that. And it's not just beef, of course it's pork and it's lamb and it's, it's fish, it's chicken, and I'm learning about other things. Learned about rabbit, and I learned about bison recently. 4 ways to cook the prime rib. I think I got sidetracked. The first way was the old school way, 350 for 20 minutes a pound. The second way is to sear it first. That's where you put it in the oven for 500 degrees for a period of time, and then you just turn it off and you let it sit there. When you do it that way, you are still going to have the product be seasoned, salted, brined, whatever you want to call it, before you put it in. And when you take it out, you're going to rest it. That's another. I know a couple of people that are older, much older, and 20 years older. So these are people in their 70s or 80s, and they always wanted to say, I want my prime rib hot. Give it to me hot. And, what they really wanted was the prime rib before it had a chance to rest. And, I rest it. It does bring down the temperature a little bit, which is why I always, without exception, serve prime rib with au jus, because the au jus can be hot and that'll reheat it. Every now and then I have a customer come in and say they had a dry prime rib. Hello, Ollie. Ollie's just barking at me here. Every now and then I have a customer come in and say they had a dry prime rib, not necessarily one that was from Ray's. And I would say, did you serve it with an au jus? And they would be like, oh no, I didn't do that. And so then consequently, I would tell them, how to make an au jus, and it's always prime rib au jus. You pour a little bit of au jus on top, and that's going to season it. All 3 recipes of the prime rib that the Martiniak family is going to have tomorrow are in the description below. So you can decide, especially after you see us eating them, which ones look best, which one feels best. You can decide which one that you want to use. But it is fun that we're going to have prime rib prepared 3 different ways at Christmas. Okay, now we are in the kitchen. Remember, I have 4 prime ribs for Christmas tomorrow, and these are 3 of them. These are 3 5-pounders. Brother Ray has been dry aging these since the 23rd. Today is the 27th. So what that means is he just unwrapped them. They're all 5 pounds each. He hand-picked them. He drove around the southeast Detroit community for days to pick out the 4 prime rib. I am not exaggerating that we're using. And again, 2 of these we're going to give to Jason tomorrow after I rub them with the garlic herb butter. And he's going to do that searing. And then 1 of these we're going to salt. We're going to keep for myself, and I'm going to prepare that here at Corey's and do the Dijon rub. So what I want to say about the prime rib in particular, let's hold any of these up. This one would be a good one if you don't mind, Austin. So this is what I want to show you. Is it looks so delicious, doesn't it? We know how to pick out beef. So you can see the marbling, but this is, I'm going to talk more about prime rib in particular. This is called the cap. And when I eat prime rib, that is always my favorite part. If you watch the episode where Chef John Provost cooked the bison ribeye, then you will see that I talked about the cap. And so this is the one that's a little darker. This is the one that I'm going to salt next. Now, Austin, if you wouldn't mind, I want you to, these will just come right off. They're not, it's like a rubber band. Would you mind taking those off? And now, open it. You'll see that it's already been, we used to call this cradling the prime rib. And what we've done, what happened here is that the bone has been cut away from the meat. We always prefer bone-in prime rib. People say it's for the flavor. Other people say it just makes it cook better. And the reason we chime is that when it comes time to serve the prime rib, it's going to be cooked with the bone on it. Go ahead, put it back together just for a second, Austin, please. So it'll be cooked with the bone on it, so you get that flavor. But then if you would open it back up, please, Austin. When you go to carve it, it's already been taken off the bone. So you just have to do 1 slice right here, boom chakalaka, and then you'll have the prime rib bone. You'll just be able to cut the prime rib just like this. It's so much easier to take that bone off before you cook it than after. Because when you've got a hot prime rib and you're trying to take that bone off, you're making a mess. So that is called, there's other words for it, but we used to call that at the store, we used to call that cradling. And the 2,000 pounds of bone-in prime rib we would sell at Christmas time, I would say 85% of them, people would ask us to cradle for them. The other 15% probably didn't know what it was, but we would always ask, do you want it cradled? Because that's one of the things you do at a small meat market is, you do special things like that. The other thing that cradling allows is it allows the seasoning to be put not only just on top of the entire prime rib, but it also allows the seasoning to be put here too. So when Austin and I salt this one together, we're going to put seasoning all over everything, and then inside, and then we'll put, usually it's butcher twine. We got these fancy like rubber band things, and then we'll put it back together. So the only one of the 4 prime ribs is going to get salted the day before. And you can see the dry aging. Also, what I want to say about dry aging is typically dry aging is done in a more controlled environment where you have fans and you have a salt like pan underneath. and you have humidity controls that run to your phone. So if you own a dry ager, go ahead and say it in the comments below. I almost bought a dry ager for the store. I thought about it. But typically when you dry age the more efficient way, you're doing it with that salt underneath and in a humidity controlled environment with fans. All we're doing is just unwrapping them, putting them in a refrigerator for 4 or 5 days, and that's our method of dry aging. But it concentrates the flavor in the meat, which is why we do that. I'm ready to salt, Austin. How about you?
I'm ready to go.
All right, before we do that, we're going to talk about one thing. Look at the shirts that Austin is wearing. I have one on that's similar. This is his mother, Corey, who just graduated from the University of Toledo. She did it in the fall.
Yep.
And she took the bar, and she passed the bar.
My mother, Corey, is an exceptional, amazing woman, and she does elder law and paralegal help. So if you ever have any questions or help, feel free to call this, and she'll help you.
A guardian ad litem, elder law. She's just starting her business. I mean, she just got her office space. We decided to have a little fun and wear the t-shirts today. Now we are going to just salt the prime rib. We have a kosher salt. The reason we use kosher, this is what Chef John Provost uses as well, who's in many of my episodes, but it's a coarser grind. And we're only gonna salt the one. A little bit of controversy with my family here. They're not used to it. So we're gonna just do the one. This is so fun, Austin. Austin's like, yeah, I'm the sous chef. I just do whatever he tells me.
Yeah.
And here we are, sous chef. I mean, it was so much fun. Salt the prime rib, Austin. Okay, Uncle Brent, I got it. And he's a way better cook than that. He's certainly way. And he's worked in the restaurant industry as well. He knows what he's doing, in addition to being in the family. He's a way better. He's not someone who just follows instructions. He is perfectly capable of cooking on his own and making things on his own.
Yeah, some of my favorite dishes to make are shrimp scampis, steaks. I'm really good at making breakfast.
We're going to score the top, and I'll explain what we're going to do that and why we're going to do that. So I'm going to stop for a moment. I'm going to grab the knife. I'm going to let Austin just continue to salt all sides. Okay, so now we're going to score the top. We're only going to do this on the one. Again, I'm doing some family controversy here. I'm cooking the prime rib different than what we normally do. And what the scoring does is that allows the seasoning to pierce the fat cap a little better. And you can see my fat cap just like this. Very good. After we score, we're just going to go ahead and put the salt on the top. We have it on all the other sides right now. And then we're going to put the rope or the string back on, or rubber band, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll just go ahead and put that back in the fridge until tomorrow. Okay, here's my one salted 5-pound prime rib. Here's the 2 that aren't. They're going to go back in the refrigerator until tomorrow. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make the garlic herb butter, which we're not going to put on until tomorrow. And there's only 4 ingredients in this. Unsalted butter. You probably remember Chef John Provost saying he prefers unsalted when cooking because that allows us to control the salt content. This is fresh thyme. This is fresh rosemary. And these are our garlic bulbs. What we're going to do is we're going to melt the butter in a bowl. And then we're going to chop the thyme and the rosemary and the garlic. And then we're going to put it all together. What are we going to do after that, Austin? Just stir it, right?
Stir it.
And then we're going to let it settle
Yeah.
until tomorrow when we use it. Okay, Austin, so here we are. We have chopped thyme that was in this, chopped rosemary that was in this. We melted the butter for 2 minutes. We have a whisk, and now we have the garlic press. And we're putting in approximately 10 or 12 cloves of garlic in this. And we are then going to blend it. And today is the day before the party. The reason we're doing this today is it's one less thing for us to do tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be busy doing the cooking. So we're prepping this a day in advance.
Good.
All right, Austin, now what are we going to do? It's all in there. We saw the garlic, the thyme, the rosemary, and the butter, and we're whisking. What I'll do tomorrow, again, we're going to just put that in the fridge. We'll cover it with a little saran. And what I'll do is tomorrow, I will have to reheat it again, and then I'm just going to slather it just before we cook it, the 2 prime ribs that Jason's going to cook doing the searing.
The smells of this I'm already excited for dinner tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll say it again. My family knows a little bit about prime rib. We know how to cook it, and we have a lot of fun. Okay, it's the day of cooking. Here's my 3 primes that have been dry aged now this is the 5th day. The one that I dry brined with salt yesterday is right there. That's also the one that's been scored. And it takes about 2 to 4 hours to bring a prime rib to temperature, room temperature, before you cook it, which is, of course, exactly what you're supposed to do. So I've taken them out now. I'm also going to put the garlic herb butter on these 2 that I'll be bringing over to Jason, that he is going to cook. And then this one is going to get the Dijon and herbs. So once again, I'm filming while I cook. So what I did do here, what you need to know is, you remember I made the garlic herb butter yesterday. I had stored it in the refrigerator overnight. I had to put it in the microwave for about a minute just so I could get it soft, because it was hard, as you would expect butter to turn. And you can see where the prime ribs, I've opened them up. They were cradled. I will say that I've cradled so many prime ribs, it's very easy. If you bought a bone-in prime rib and you have not, did not get it cradled at the place where you purchased it from, you can do it yourself. You're just going to take a knife and you can go right through this bone. It's so easy. I actually used to take the bone completely off. The people here decided to kind of butterfly it or leave it attached. But I do want to say that if you're making bone-in prime rib and you do not have it cradled, you do not have that bone removed, please do it yourself. Again, you put it on its side like this. You take a carving knife and you go right there, and you'll go right through. And again, I would take that bone completely off. And again, the 2 advantages, talked about it. This is a repeat. One is, after it's hot, you don't have to carve it off the bone hot, which, I'll be honest, is a little bit of a hassle. And then the second item is, it also allows you to put the seasoning and the rubs not just on top of the roast, but inside the roast. Okay, so here we are, all slathered up. I'm dropping them off at Jason's. Next time we see these, they'll be all cooked. It's down to me and 1 prime rib. The other 3 are at Jason's. Jason and Beth's. This one I'm going to rub with some Dijon mustard. Remember, this one we salted yesterday. They've all been, today's the 28th. They've all been dry aged, meaning just sitting in the refrigerator like this for 5 days. And after I rub this with mustard, Dijon mustard, of course, the other ingredients are just black pepper, rosemary, and garlic. And this is the one where I'm going to cook it at 225. I'm doing a reverse sear after it's seasoned. The oven is warming up right now for 2.5, 3 hours. And then I'll take it out and let it rest for a half hour, 45 minutes. I think that's my plan, is I'm actually going to bring it over to Jason and Beth's. And then we'll do the final sear, which is really just 5 minutes each side. And I'm going to cook it to 115, I feel. Okay, so I have rubbed mustard on both sides. And what I'm going to call the in-between, I have here my garlic and my rosemary. And the rosemary, if I didn't say this yet, was homegrown. That's why it was so large. My nephew Jason, his wife Beth, had actually grown that. And then I'm going to, all I'm going to do is I'm going to grind some fresh ground black pepper in there. And then I'm going to add my rosemary / garlic, fresh garlic mix. And then I'm going to shut it. And I'm going to put everything on the top. And I'm going to put it in the oven. You may ask, I'm ready to put it in the oven. Why did I put a Dijon mustard binder on? And it's several reasons. It makes for a better crust. It holds the herbs on better so that you can get a better distribution of the herbs. Gives it a little bit of more, they say it gives it a little flavor, for lack of a better term, as if prime rib needs any more flavor. But I do want you to see how I'm not putting it directly on a pan, that it's on a rack. You could use a broiling pan, but this is actually a better method because what that does is that allows the air to circulate throughout. So it's about 1 o'clock now. I'll be checking on this periodically, and around, I'm guessing, 3:30, maybe 4, I should be able to pull it out. My plan again is once I pull it out, I'm going to let it rest, and that'll be the car ride to Jason and Beth's. And what Jason and I sorted out was when I get there, that's when I'll put it back in the oven at 500 to do the reverse sear. It's only for 5 minutes on each side, something like that. Okay, into the oven we go. I'm at a Christmas party now, so it's noisy. Here's the prime rib I cooked. It's rested for approximately 45 minutes. We're going to put it back in the oven at 500 in just a minute, and then we're going to get the crust on it. You can see that it doesn't have a crust, a reverse sear. Here's the 2 prime ribs that Jason cooked, and they have he did the sear first. They look pretty delicious. These are the ones that were covered in the garlic herb butter that Austin and I made. Here's the smoked prime rib. It still needs a sear. It's totally unrelated to prime rib, but these are pierogies, and that's smoked Polish kielbasa and fresh Polish kielbasa. And this is food I can't find, or if I do find it, it's difficult in Colorado. So I'm thrilled that I've got some good appetizers. Okay, Jason just carved my prime rib, and mine looks pretty darn good. Now we're going to carve the next one. This is one that was smoked. Oh my gosh, look how good that is.
It's just a very long commute for me.